following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
Hello, Downers. It's Monday again, which means we have another deliciously uncomfortable discussion delivered straight to your masochistic eardrums. Thank you for coming back for more punishment. On today's episode, I'm joined again by my brothers Craig and Cole to discuss the quality or lack thereof in Christian entertainment. We talked a little bit about bands and musical projects that we are personally involved in, and after editing this episode, I realized that we never mentioned any names of those bands. So for those who are interested, I'll probably include a couple song clips in the end cap of this episode so you can decide for yourself if we put our passion where our mouth is or if we're just big dumb hypocrites. So stick around to the end of the show for that, and without further ado, let's get weird. We're about an hour past schedule because Craig finally decided to join us at 9:50 instead of about 9 o'clock, which was what we were shooting for. Craig, how's it going over there?
I gotta leave at 10.
Craig, how you doing? You doing all right?
Doing good. Doing good. You interrupted a really good bonfire, though.
So you're smoking weed after the last episode?
Not a bonfire, a bonfire.
Did Travis and Bobby convince you that you should skip this episode?
Damn it, Bobby.
To have a bonfire?
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on. Did you measure the height of the fire? Because I'm thinking you might be frivolously using the term bon.
Okay, it's just a fire. It's just a fire.
Okay.
It was a small fire.
Was it really a small fire?
It was just a minor arson. Nothing major.
If it was small, I mean, that's cool.
It was a flame. It wasn't even a fire. It was a flame.
All right.
Damn. You shouldn't have used the term bonfire. But hey, whatever. I feel like that happened all the time whenever somebody was like, hey, you want to come over? We're going to have a bonfire. You get there and it's like, there's like 3 pieces of wood on this fire. It's like, this is not a bonfire. Bonfire, by definition, needs to be taller than me, right? I mean,
if you can cook hot dogs on it, it's not a bonfire.
No. Well, yeah. But
if you can stand close enough without burning your eyebrows off, it's not a bonfire.
Yeah. Right. If you didn't...
We had a 20-foot bonfire once that we stood behind a metal plate and tried to cook marshmallows, and it still didn't work.
Just touch the marshmallow to the metal plate. So this episode is about bonfires.
This episode is about bonfires. Who cares what this episode's about? We're having a good time. We're having a good time over here.
The validity of the fire and whether or not you should classify it in the bond.
Speaking of...
It's all subjective.
No, I don't think so. I think bonfire is very clear cut.
Speaking of fire, did you guys check out that new Newsboys album?
No, I try to avoid Newsboys albums.
Today we're discussing why Christians are so bad at making entertainment.
Is it Christians alone, or is it just religious type?
Well, when was the last time you listened to a Jewish rock band?
Say anything.
Fair. Okay, a Buddhist rock band. Shut up. We're focusing on Christians because that's what we know and love.
Well,
and there's not too many giant markets of entertainment revolving around other religions, to my knowledge, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a huge Buddhist entertainment market that I have completely missed.
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of ethnic sounding music with, the sitars and the Indian music.
That's more cultural, though.
Yeah, but it's cultural, but I mean...
That's the same as saying rock band sucks.
Though, right? We just don't know...
We just don't know. Do you know anything about those bands, though?
No, that's what I mean. Like, we don't know anything about it, but...
All right, let's talk about it.
we don't know anything.
Let's start there. Let's dig deep into that topic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that music probably sucks in comparison to its, like...
It is sitar music, so it's
secular
probably not.
Counterpart. It probably is garbage. Like, all the Indian people are like, no, that is not good. That is not good. Okay, I can't do that. I should not do that.
You're going to have to edit that out.
I am absolutely not editing that out. Sorry.
See, this is good.
Sorry to all of our Indian and Hindu listeners.
This is very, very good.
Love it. That's great.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, yeah.
Getting straight to the racism this time. Let's talk about the Jews a little bit more while we're here. Cole, anything you have
I have nothing
against the Jews?
I can't think of even one stereotype, really.
You're
I think
joking?
everybody else has pointed out the problems with
I've
the
got
Jews.
plenty.
I mean, look at me. I'm Jewish. That's the best I can do.
Look at me, I'm a funny, funny Jew.
What's the deal with airline food? Isn't he a Jew? I think he's a Jew.
Of course he is. Anybody who is a professional comedian has probably got a little Jewy background in him. So,
Wow.
for those who haven't been paying attention to real entertainment and Christian entertainment, there's a huge gap and barrier in between the Christian world and spectrum of selling music and movies and stuff in the name of God, or just selling art for the sake of art and making good art. We pretty much have all been in a Christian band in one way or another, and I would submit that back in those days where we were focused on that, we kind of ourselves sucked a little bit more than we do now. Cole, any thoughts?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about what you just said. Starting with the fact that, to clarify a little more, would be that Christian art, musically specifically, seems to always be just like, I don't know the year interval, but they're always just a few years behind the mainstream pop.
Yeah.
It's like if something comes out that's popular in the mainstream on the radio hits, blah, 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 then 2 years, 3 years later, you'll hear that same
The Christian version of it?
on K-Love, but it'll be like, oh, is this Katy Perry? No, wait, no, this is, I'm listening to K-Love. This can't be Katy Perry. It's popular. Whatever the flavor was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what Christian music then...
It's never innovative.
Yeah,
Christian
no
music is
way.
never the cutting edge of entertainment, movies or music or
Not really,
anything.
especially movies. Oh, Lord.
Oh yeah, let's start with music because
Yeah.
that's something that we know very well. And movies
Movies are
doesn't even
very far
require real discussion or argument because I can't think of too many people who would argue on the side of Christian movies being better than otherwise.
But it's not really about... I mean, obviously, I think most of us, as musicians or just people who consume music, it doesn't matter that they are Christian. That's not what makes it
Right.
the art lesser or not. It doesn't stand up as well. It's that... I mean, there's exceptions to the rule. There's plenty of Christian bands and groups that have been really stand out and
Yeah.
have stood the test of time, and then have been on the forefront of a lot of things.
Can you?
There's a few, only a few. I really can't think of a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can you name a couple? Because I have a thought on those, but I want to see if
I'm sure you think I'm gonna say Under Oath because
Okay, well, I don't know.
for sure. Like, I mean, there's a few bands that are like, but they've since like kind of let go of the Christian title they used to have and tried to distance themselves sort of from that because they've matured and grown up.
Well, I would submit more bands like, and I don't. They don't necessarily label themselves as a Christian
Still?
band, like Owl City, Beartooth, The Devil Wears Prada, stuff like that. Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, even like they have Christian-based lyrics and stuff like that, and they are Christians, and they didn't present themselves as they broke into the market because of their talent. Instead of because of their message, and there's no other message that can get you an immediate platform. You can't say, I'm a,
Vegan.
yeah, I'm a vegan rock band and automatically have...
This is a Buddhist rock band, or this is a pedo rock band, or this is no other
Rock band?
no other title is like attached to music in a way that, like, for one, that makes no freaking sense. How can music be subscribed to a religion?
Yes.
The sounds that you make with your guitar and your drums and your voice, the sounds that you make are not a religious affiliation.
Back to what Cole was saying about how Christian bands aren't innovative. I think that's all started
That was me.
probably... What's that?
That was me, but go ahead.
That's what I was
Oh,
getting
obviously.
at.
That all started back in, I'd probably put it late 80s, early 90s, back when if you're a fan of X, if you're a fan of this secular band, you should listen to this. It was their intention was to copy the secular bands.
Yes.
Their intention wasn't to be innovative or try something new, because it was, hey, let's just make a Christian alternative to what everybody wants to listen, so we can all feel good about listening to rock music. So we're going to copy this band, or we're going to copy this band.
So that you had
and
somewhere
so that started late 80s, early 90s with like Petra and those like metally Christian bands. Striper's really good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't rail too much on those guys because it wasn't a huge market back then. It was like they were Christian guys who were playing the hair metal that everybody was playing, and they didn't automatically have a market. Like the Christian scene railed against them for being innovative and doing metal with a message, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But now it's snowballed into this market where all it takes is for you to have a guitar and be on stage and say you're a Christian, and you've automatically got a handful of youth group kids that are going to buy your CDs, or their parents are going to buy your CDs because they don't want their kids listening to the radio. They want them listening to something that they can trust.
Christian music is an easy market because of parents, mostly because of youth group bands. If you're a youth group band, if a band's coming to play at a youth group, a parent feels safe to drop their kids off at that youth group and just know they're going to be getting the edifying music.
Right.
And they're going to probably buy the kid whatever CD he wants to because, it's Christian music, so we're going to buy it. So churches are willing to drop $400 or $500, $600 on a band, when if you were to go out and play in a secular market, like a bar or something, your band's not going to make anything near that at that stage. I
think that's all well and true for sure. And just as you were speaking, I wanted to be like, yeah, you're totally right. Like, that's bullshit. But also, part of me is like, well, if I'm a parent and I want my kids to, I'm not going to let my kids go to like, at a certain age, if they're young enough, I'm not going to drop them off at like just wherever.
Just a club or anything.
Yeah, to watch music. But if it's like, well, this thing is something I can understand. This is a place, this is a safe environment, like the church. And so I think that there are bands that if that's all they want to do and they understand, and they're not trying to take advantage of that, or they're just trying to we just want to be something good for family friendly music, and they just want to have, that's their thing, they administer to that's their crowd, and they're okay with that being their crowd.
Sure.
I really don't see that as bad or wrong. I definitely do think those bands are probably not your cutting edge.
I think it becomes a crutch, though. I really think it becomes a crutch, and it curbs talent. Like, you no longer have to work to be the most talented band because the market really is not that strict of a market. So you don't have to be better than the next band because you're already probably one of the better Christian bands out there.
Sure.
Yeah, and on the topic of just dropping your kids off and everything, I don't necessarily have any issue with that, or any issue with Christian bands that are trying to be the best that they possibly can be, playing to a Christian market.
Well, I think a lot of them.
But the issue for me in that is when a parent won't allow their kid to listen to anything that is not Christian because they are not willing to take the time to look into what that band is and what that band stands for, and allow them to listen to Christian music. That's where it becomes lazy. I wouldn't drop my kid off at a secular club necessarily when they're young, and I would enjoy introducing my kids to rock music and stuff like that, and it makes sense for them to drop them off at a church and that type of thing. But the church is definitely not pushing the next generation to make innovative music. They're pushing them to make music that can be played for the church and the church kids. And I think that is detrimental to their audience and detrimental to the kids that are doing it, because they're not trying to be the best. They're trying to be cool and have a guitar and talk about Jesus on stage, in my opinion.
Right. Well, yeah, I think a lot of them do. And I knew of some that when I was in my last band, we were, we carried that label of Christian band, but like we played with bands at churches and stuff. And I think it was because of the genre we were in. It wasn't really like, we didn't really get church gigs that much. We were too heavy for that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think some of those bands that do that, I know of one specifically I can think of that's all they did. They kind of just went to churches.
Call them out.
There was a band called 3 Union. All the girls in the youth group went, "Oh my God, look, it's 3 Union." They were all pretty boys,
right?
And whatever. They weren't that great at They were great at what they were doing, and what they were doing was easy as hell.
Well,
and what they were doing was very like spoon feeding you.
Yeah, if you took what they were doing,
worship type pop music.
Yeah, if you took what they were doing musically and put them in a bar, do you think it would have the girls would have been swooning over them? No, because there's a common denominator there automatically between them and their audience, where they have a low bar to reach. Sure. And if they are decent at all and they are Christian, they're accepted in the Christian community.
But this is the thing, though, that I'm getting at is that that's all, as far as I know, that's all they were trying to do was just kind of be a safe band for youth groups to hear. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't know. I don't like it.
I don't like it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't really like it either, but I just don't think that anybody should say that you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. I mean, just like when you said earlier, it's like, oh, anybody could just get halfway good at guitar or singing maybe or whatever and just get up on a stage, and because they're in the church and maybe they play on the worship team, that church is just going to propel them into these events where they can play for these kids and stuff. Like, well, is that really a big deal if they themselves aren't trying to go be rock stars or anything?
Yes.
Why is it a big deal?
I do think it is an issue, because I think that if those kids are not trying to be the best musicians they can, then they're kind of doing a disservice to the point that they're trying to make, which is that we're making art for God and all that. They're not making art for God. They're making art to propel themselves in their career.
Well, it depends on what they claim, I guess. Did they claim that? I don't know.
Well, I assume if they were playing only at churches, that they were...
Is it art for God, or is it just music for the sake of...
Well, here's the thing. My band played at a church venue in Macomb that would have... they would have like one Christian band and like 4 or 5 secular bands, and they would just have the rules. Hey, you don't cuss, you don't talk about sex, drugs, whatever. But they intentionally had these secular bands come in. So I think that it's like multi-layered. It's not just like that was a safe place for kids to go to. And that puts it on the church. Like the church is not allowing clean bands that aren't Christian to come in. Like you can have a decent band who doesn't talk about Jesus, who presents good music to kids, and I don't think there's...
Positive message.
Yeah, I think that there's way more value in that than presenting watered-down Christian crap to crappy Christians. And just... it just feels like propaganda to me, and I do have a problem with it.
It is.
It seems harmless, but it's like you're literally selling Jesus to kids on some level, and there's no easy answer, but... I don't like it.
I really think that that's not something you can just go across the board with and say that any band or any group of musicians that call themselves a band claiming to make original music or any original art is just deceiving people or selling Jesus. If that's really not what if they're just like, we like to play music, we don't take ourselves too seriously enough to try to make it in the mainstream market. Yeah. We just want to play these things for these people that seem to like it.
Sure.
And I'm not in that. That's not my situation. I just kind of think if I'm not the one saying this, no one's going to. Because I think I think it's got to be okay for bands to do that. Like,
I'm not going to tell any kid that he shouldn't play music just because he's not real enough. Like,
yes,
definitely
I know, but
do it.
I know that, but
I think that we should transition into more of the big mainstream stuff. Shut up, Craig.
No.
I wanted to cut in.
Baby Craig.
Go ahead.
What you got?
Last opinion before you transition. My opinion with this
let's move on.
With any other thing, I just think if you're stuck in your own comfort bubble and doing what you're comfortable playing, like say that's a church youth group band, you're not giving yourself the option to grow, and that might not necessarily be their intention, but they're sitting in this venue or this genre or whatever where they are comfortable and people do like their music, but they're not venturing outside of that little sphere to realize, hey, I do need to be a better band. I do need to play better music. So I as far as anything in life, and if you're not getting outside your comfort zone, you're not growing, and I think that's definitely true with a Christian band. I definitely think that's the issue with these youth group bands is they're not putting themselves outside of their comfort zone of the youth group bands. They're not playing with these better bands and learning from people that have
they would be eaten
been
alive
tested through time.
Should they though? I mean, should they? What if that's not their interest? I mean,
well, then don't do it.
Don't do it.
I just think if you're not doing as much as you can to be as good as you can, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
How about this? If we're talking Christianity, how about Colossians 3:23 through 24 that says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord
Do not quote
and
the
not
Bible
for
on that.
men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. Better yet, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed, right? Rightly handling the word of truth.
What does this have to do with anything?
It's talking about doing your best, like doing the best that you possibly can.
And if they're doing their best playing the music that they just feel like playing.
If they're doing the best, yeah.
But
But are they doing
you
the
guys
best?
are both kind
Get
of saying
better.
No, what if they don't care about being the best musicians?
But then they're not doing their best.
If they're not trying to market themselves to the mainstream, then who gives a crap? Like if a band is just trying, they're not even like trying to make a career out of it. If they're just like if you or me washed up in music and we're just like, you know what, I just want to play music still, even though I'm not going to take it super seriously. I still want to play.
But that's too common in Christian music, and that's why crappy Christian music stays crappy, because too many people are wanting to stay there because they can make money in a church playing their crappy music.
I think that if it's a band that's trying to be on tours and trying to make a real career for themselves, you guys are definitely right. Then they're copping out.
Well, that's talking about
and they are taking,
career.
They're
I'm
taking
talking
an
about,
easy way out. And
is it wrong to not do your best when the Bible says
you're doing
do
the
your
best,
damn best?
if you're doing your best, that's a dumb issue in my opinion. That is definitely not important to me. Like if a band just wants to be what they are and play for their youth group crowd and just be a youth group band and they're content with that and they're just doing it on the weekends, whatever, let them. Who cares? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, except I don't like that. I think it's dumb. I think it's stupid. I would never do it. I think it's a waste of time. If you're writing original music and you're never trying to market it out to an actual audience that needs it. That's the other thing. If you're a Christian band and you actually think people need to hear your music,
and you're saying that it's a ministry,
you're doing the worst job ever by only playing for Christians. And also, the crap you're making, if it's so
churches in general.
Yeah, well, yeah. And if
that's next week's podcast, probably.
If you're making music that's just literally just so preachy and stuff, that's never ever going to help anybody except for people that already believe. And that was never something I actually wanted to do. And so I got out of it. I'm not in a Christian band any longer. I'm in a band. I'm in a regular secular band. And you know what? Like I write songs about things that I feel, experiences I've had, ideas I hold, and I question the things I want to question, and I call out the things I want to call out. Yeah. And that's the band I'm in now, and it's much better for me. It's much better, I think, for anybody that wants to find. If I wanted somebody to find meaning in my life or the things that I've been through or understand,
because you're real.
It would be because the songs impacted them in a way, and then they actually had to like think about it and look into the lyrics, and then maybe even ask me at a show that I could be like, well, you know, if you wanted to know, that's because I was raised this way and this happened to me, and now I think this way when I used to think a certain way. Whatever.
Sure.
That's getting into something more, but I just don't like. There are so many Christian bands that, like Under Oath, for example, they started out thinking, and Emery too, obviously. Yeah. They started out thinking that they needed to. Well, they were Christians. They have to do everything to the glory of God, right? So we're in this band, so we have to preach Jesus from the stage. And I thought that same thing when I was younger, but I feel like they grew up. They came to a point where they now understand.
There, and I'm still in the same band, back in the same band. That's what I was going to say. Our band was a quote unquote Christian band, right? And some people still could label it that, and I'm fine with that. I don't care. But my stance now, instead of being preachy and acting like everything is flowery in the end and everything has a button ending on it that God is good and everything, my new songs are 100% about what I'm dealing with, all the crap and dirtiness and reality of life. And I think that is something that is vastly missing from Christian music in general, which I think is wrong.
That's relatable to people, though.
Yeah, I think it is wrong not to do that. I think it is wrong, just as it is for a pastor to claim that he is, or act like he is perfect and above reproach. I think it's the same for Christian music, acting like everything is fine and dandy. And I found a good quote today that I think is relevant to this. It's by Dennis Hack, Haack.
I can't trust what he says.
I knew you were going to say that.
He's a hack.
I think he's a pastor of some sort. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I will quote him on this. Okay. He said, God did not make every tree in the shape of a cross. He could have, but he didn't. There is a riotous creativity in God's creation. There's just a short clip on YouTube where he's talking about how people think that Christians should write Christian music, and they should write music that it can only be glorifying to God if it is saying God and everything. Like creation doesn't show God without every tree being the shape of a cross.
Yeah. Because if
and every painter doesn't have to paint a cross. They can paint a person and do their best and have it be a beautiful work of art that is showing God, because they're showing the best that they can do.
Their talents are a testament to if there's a creator, if God exists, if God, is the one who made us in His image. When we make anything that is worthy of recognition and awe. It is just really is well done. Like if we do anything at all, like that is testament to said creator and his goodness. It's just like if you make pipes, they are like you handcrafted that. You took a piece of wood, made by God first, and you made it into something different. And if you did a crappy job, is anybody going to think, "Wow, that's inspiring. That is beautiful"? No. If you do a great job, people are like, "Wow, that's." It doesn't have to say John 3:16.
Carve the pipe in the shape of Jesus' face.
Yeah, it doesn't have to say John 3:16 on the side for you to be like, I do this because it's worship for me to do. Yeah, it's like and even if it isn't, and it may or may not be for you, and not all things have to be, honestly. But
I think even if you're not intending for it to be, like even a non-Christian does a magnificent work of art. I think that's speaking more toward God than Cutlass's new album is, personally.
I don't know it, but
speaking of Cutlass,
I don't know either. I haven't listened to them in 10 years.
I don't either. I just know they went very, very, very CCM after their first album, which I really enjoyed their first album. And then all of a sudden they went super CCM, and
they were delightful butt rock back in the days of Creed and Nickelback.
See,
they were the Christian version of that stuff.
Yeah.
I liked it back then too.
My issue with CCM music, and this is exactly what Cole's talking about.
It's called butt rock. You know exactly why it's called butt rock. Because if I say butt rock, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you know why.
But I have no idea why it's called that.
My issue with Christian contemporary music, like the K-Love and stuff like that gets to the same thing Cole's talking about, is all it turns into is Christian cliches, like a bunch of Christian one-liners crammed into one song. My least favorite song in the world, can we say names on this? Or are we calling people out?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to call out Casting Crowns.
Oh, duh.
What was it, Meant to Thrive? Or Made to Thrive?
Yeah, I bet.
That song is literally probably 20 Christian cliches, just all crammed, feel-good cliches, all crammed to music, and everybody thinks this is the greatest song because it's so feel-good message. When you actually listen to how shallow and how cliche it is terrible. It is just like an insult to music.
All right, give me a second here.
Yep, I agree with
I've got some quotes for you. Here in this worn and weary land, where many a dream has died.
Amen. Amen.
Like a tree planted by the water, we never will run dry. So living water.
I put my hands up.
It's like a bunch of stuff that just doesn't.
Do
really
you have
make
a
sense
choice?
Together.
I'm raising my hands right now. People can't see me, but I'm raising my hands.
So living water flowing through. God, we thirst for more of you. Fill our hearts and flood our souls with one desire, just to know you and to make you known. I feel kind of bad railing on this because this is what I was raised on, but I'm going for it. I'm assuming this is the chorus. Into your word, we're digging deep to know our Father's heart. Is it not?
No, this isn't the chorus yet.
You'll know it.
I might have skipped the chorus. Is it just to know you?
Just to know.
Yep. Okay.
To know you and to make you known or something like that.
Just to know you and to make you known. We lift your name on high. Shine like the sun. Make darkness run and hide.
Wow, darkness can't hide.
We know we were made for so much more than ordinary lives. It's time for us to more than just survive.
If you were made for so much more than ordinary lives,
we were made to thrive, motherfucker.
Making such garbage.
Make your song thrive.
Yeah, make your song stand apart.
Go to the bridge. Read the bridge because it's better.
Oh, it's better.
Is it joy unspeakable, faith unsinkable?
Yep.
Joy unspeakable, faith.
Joy unspeakable. Faith unsinkable.
I feel like you're not taking this seriously enough.
I think that's how it goes.
Joy unspeakable, faith unsinkable, love unstoppable.
Faith isn't a bonus.
Anything is possible.
Ooh,
Repeat 4 times.
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
Something
it's just a bunch of like you took every Christian one-liner you heard in any sermon as like a junior high at church camp, and you threw it into a song.
That's pretty amazing, though.
No, I'm inspired.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm going to give my life to God now. Actually.
Welcome back to the flock, sir. But yeah, like
we have an altar call right now.
I was wanting to transition into more bigger bands, so here we are. Stuff like that, stuff like Newsboys, Audio Adrenaline, DC Talk, and I mean, some of these bands, like DC Talk back in the day, they were a little bit revolutionary actually, but now it's just, well, DC Talk isn't a thing, but two of the guys are in like Newsboys and Audio Adrenaline, and Toby Mac's doing his own thing. I don't know, like, it's just so blah. And how many times, I've said this many times, how many times have you heard somebody say, this is the secular version of that Christian band that you like? Like, is there ever a Christian band that is like setting the precedent, and there's a secular band that is copying them?
No, because every good, really, really good stand-apart Christian band that I listened to, that I like followed, has since sort of shed the label of Christian.
Yeah.
And I don't, for whatever reasons, like some of them just realize
they don't want to be attached to the rest of that crap.
Yeah.
That's why.
Well, I think a lot of it though is like the main thing for me when it comes to Christian music, unless it's straight up worship, music isn't religious. Music is just music.
Yeah. Can you have a Christian instrumental band?
No. Exactly.
But you can have an instrumental band that has Christians in it and is sold in the Christian market as Christian music. What's making it Christian? Are those notes more holy?
They're playing hymns.
What if they're playing in a minor key? Is it still a Christian band?
No, that is Satan.
That's strictly witchcraft.
But that's what I just don't. A band can't be a Christian. A band is a band.
Right.
Music cannot be Christian. Music is music. It's just like, if you believe a certain way, maybe it'll come through your songs, maybe it will not.
Right.
However you want that to happen is up to you. But please, for God's sake, I hate the label Christian music. It's a stupid label. Unless, there's worship music.
Yeah.
Does that mean every single band that thinks they are Christian I think they should just call them worship bands.
I think we should call...
And then a lot less of them would take that title because they're like, well, this isn't worship music per se.
Well, how about we call every band that is really, really good worship music, because they're doing the best thing that they can do.
Yeah.
And that is presenting God. I think that presents God more than half the worship music. And when was the last time, not saying that there aren't any, because there's some great ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. That's how prevalent they're. John Mark McMillan is one, but like most worship artists are just giving you the one-liners that you repeat 5 times that a church can that a church can buy into and they can sing along to, and it's just pop music with Jesus on it. It doesn't make it any more worshipful than a metal song.
But like I said before, it's like some of those are writing literally just for the churches to sing it on Sunday morning. That's fine. I think that's fine. But don't think you're going to tour and be...
No, I still think you should do your best that you can, too. And just make it something that the church will buy.
Yeah, you should. Oh. That's true. I think that's true. But I think the root of all of it is that... Why are we even talking about this? I think it's because the church used to be known for its...
Yes.
Great art.
Exactly. That's another point I have written down here.
Used to be like, that was where the artists,
they were
Michelangelo, like Leon, like all these Da Vinci,
Leonardo DiCaprio, and all the others,
like the Sistine Chapel,
and the rest of the Ninja Turtles,
all this stuff. All the Ninja Turtles, all them green shelled dudes. But the church was known for putting out great art. It was the only place you saw that. For a while, I mean,
yes,
that was the church commissioned intense, amazing pieces of art.
Right.
We're not talking about music, but maybe some of it was composed. I mean, we're the compose. I'm not as
even like old folk Christian music was innovative.
Well, I'm kind of thinking as old as like the earlier composers like Bach,
even Johnny Cash,
Mozart, and things like that. Do we know of any composers that were?
Well, I don't know, because
religious?
Like it would depend on what they believe, and nobody cared back then. They were just
It was music.
composing music.
It was
and
music.
It was beautiful music.
Exactly.
But they play Beethoven and stuff like that in churches, even though it wasn't strictly Christian music.
Like Ode to
The stuff
Joy.
that Beethoven, they placed that classical music in churches.
Yeah, with a song like "Ode to Joy," it had a Christian-y sounding name, so it's cool. It's kosher, whether he was a Christian or not. It's
Sure.
Christian music.
Sure, but I mean,
Yeah,
I think one of the biggest beefs is the fact that the church used to be tied to great art, and now it's just like it just copies whatever worked.
Yeah,
It does it too late every time. Like
Yeah.
it just copies it.
like cookie cutters.
If Christians claim to be like God-inspired and like divine or whatever, shouldn't they be the innovators? Shouldn't they be the cutting edge of everything? Shouldn't they be the Michelangelos of music today? Shouldn't they be all over the radio instead of just on every watered down Christian crap station?
So why is it?
Why
is it
is
like
it?
that?
Because it got really easy for them to sell in one direction.
Yeah.
Not the band, but
Well, yeah, I think
Because it became an acceptable market. Back early in the days, Christian music wasn't an acceptable market, so you actually still had to be good at what you did. Now it's its own market of its own, and it's an acceptable market, and people are buying it off the shelves, and there's platinum Christianese records going out, so it's an easy market. Back in, say, the 60s, 70s, or before, it wasn't necessarily an easy market that it is today.
well, yeah, and there's things like the Dev Awards that's just you.
What a joke.
You know, everybody
What a
stand and applaud to
joke.
this person because they wrote the next Christian
Dove
pop song.
Awards. We have to make
It's like-
our own awards ceremony because our bands aren't
Yes.
good enough.
You take one of those bands
to
and-
get Grammys.
You take one of those bands and put them in the Grammys, and it would blow my mind. I guess Lecrae actually did that, which
Well, there's a few.
my hat off to him for sure. That's
Okay, well,
amazing.
Look it
'cause-
up. Look up how many Christian artists have won Grammys. I mean, there's very few. There's a few
right,
that have
I'll
been
do it.
nominated. I know that it's a funny and laughable thing now, but As I Lay Dying was nominated Grammy artists for a while, but they're not really a Christian band. They're just a band that was identified as being Christian, probably because they played things like Cornerstone and a certain other festivals. But whatever. And clearly, their lead singer went to jail for trying to kill his wife. But
well,
That was steroids. That was all the steroids.
yeah, it was roid rage. And honestly, Tim, I know you're listening, Tim. You're
you're making some big
I
assumptions.
love you so much, man. I forgive you for what happened. And
Your
and you
wife
know
was
what?
probably a terrible person, and it probably
We'll
wasn't.
justify you trying to kill your wife because Cole loves
well,
you.
he didn't. From what I understand, it's not like he tried to kill her. He was
He hired
obviously
a hitman.
Yeah, like, but he was. What's the word when they try to get you to do that? You're baited. You're
Entrapment.
entrapment. Yeah, it just kind of like he was clearly confiding in a dude he was working out with. Roid rage type, was going on, and this guy was making suggestions to him like, oh, do you want me to? I know a guy, blah blah blah. You could get rid of, and so
It was entrapment, but he was roided out of his mind. And
yes,
his friends said that he was crazy long before that.
dude needed some time away
Yep.
to
He got it.
locked away to figure some crap out about himself. But I think that the fact that they had the pressure they did on themselves to be Christian was ridiculous in the first place because they just weren't. They were, and he himself will say,
Yeah,
"No,
he
I
said he was
wasn't
an
even."
atheist, and they were.
so-
That's the thing. He wasn't even a Christian. They weren't a Christian band,
But
but
they kept-
they knew that they had a big market there to sell. Like
Yep.
they made more money being a Christian band,
And it shouldn't be that way.
That is why
It shouldn't
It
be
is
that
the way it is because
Yeah.
people buy you just because you have the Christian label on you, and you have that
Yep.
stamp of propaganda approval, which
So-
is disgusting.
Going back to the point here is the Christian whatever music industry felt like it had to make its own award ceremony because its bands just weren't really good enough to get Grammys. Because
Let's lower the bar for these guys. They're
Yeah.
doing a really good job.
yeah, you get a participation ribbon. But so I mean, like,
You were the best of the worst.
did you come up with any sort of list for Grammy nominated artists?
There is a contemporary Christian section in the Grammys, so it's hard to say. As far as like outlier bands getting nominations,
Well, how about like the latest Grammy nominated bands between like from 2012 to now or anything like that?
you want me to look through all
I
of the
mean-
bands that were nominated
Or
in the
maybe just last year. Like what was last year's?
last
Like
5 years?
no.
Well, Lecrae won last year.
That's great, because dude's actually good at what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like for myself, I don't care about a band's message being one way or the other. If they want to speak, if they want to have a message about something, that's their prerogative. I don't care. But that's on them to make their music stand out to a point where they could actually, break through to the mainstream and to all that stuff. Like Lecrae. I mean, I think his music's pretty cool, and I could listen to it as a passive listener. I don't care if he's preaching. I don't care. I just think it's cool if a person is real, if their music is real. Like, and it looks like, it must have made an impact because he won a Grammy. So.
Right. Yeah, I think the only way it's ever going to get anywhere close to the Renaissance and shit like that is if Christians get their heads out of their ass and start actually applying themselves to life. Hey, I'm editing this on my own later. I can deal with it. As if
I know.
Christians,
we're on a Christian podcast here, and you're saying those words.
This is not a Christian podcast.
To God.
The only way that
Christian podcast, I'm out because I do not want to be a part of Christian art anymore. I really don't.
Yeah, the only way that it's going to ever get anywhere close to where it could be is if the whole thing changes, is if the church starts pushing Christian artists to be artists and not just Christians that have some watered down message that can be presented from behind a guitar. Let's transition over to movies. Unless you have anything else to say on music, but I have a lot to say on movies.
I don't know. I feel like music could go on forever. But in my closing on the music, it would be that I think, like I said, if you want to say whatever you want to say from your creation, your musical creation, that's fine. But I mean, if you're going to preach, don't expect that to be widely accepted by the general market. And if you're going to be preachy or whatever, if you're going to be worship music, there's a market for that. There's a market for this, whatever.
Yeah, but
and maybe that may or may not be
why
a
does the
good
market
thing.
change it?
It shouldn't change the art.
It shouldn't.
The market should not change the art. If you want to make something, make it the best you can make it, and if it however you want it. Do it however you want and make it however you want. That's
absolutely
fine.
I agree. And if they want to be preachy and they're doing it to the best of their abilities, good for them. That's great.
What the art you make should be a reflection of yourself.
Yeah.
And if it's not, you're failing. And if you're just putting on and putting forth something to make money in an industry, such as taking advantage of the Christian music industry, like a lot of artists have and do, that's fake. That's wrong. Yeah. And I'm not talking morally, because I don't hold people to moral standards that I have or do not have. I think
if I'm holding them to what I assume is their moral standard because they're presenting themselves as a Christian,
I think it's just wrong. I do think it's morally wrong. I just think it's wrong in the music industry as an artist. I don't think it matters what their morals are. I think you're failing as an artist. You're doing you're a failure as an artist in being true to that. So whatever. That's where I stand with it, and that.
Yeah, I think the only way that it can get anywhere that Christian music is something that is revered and held to the esteem that it should be is if they stop doing it as just ministry, if they start being real and focusing on their personal reality and what they feel like they are supposed to literally, like what they were put here to do is to make the best art that they can and present themselves in the fabric of that creation and in the words being as real as they possibly can. The closest we can get to that is
dropping the label.
Dropping the label. Yeah. People like you for your brilliant art that you make, and then maybe they look into it or they talk to you or something after that, and they see your heart and how much love you have for them and for your music. Right. I think that is the only way to
let yourself be known through the music, but let yourself be known on the way you conduct yourself with other people. I just think my advice to any artist who's a Christian, drop the label. Stop calling yourself a Christian band. Just drop the label. Just be an artist.
Boom. Mic drop.
Stop being Christian.
Yeah. You're not a Christian plumber. You're just a plumber.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and I know that that's a joke, but that goes back to the whole.
Yeah, that's all.
God didn't make every tree to look like a cross. Like, not everybody who's doing a plumbing job has to tell people about Jesus or have it in their name.
If you're a garbage man and you're picking up somebody's garbage, you got to be like, oh. Yeah, I'll take this garbage away for you, ma'am. Did you know that also Jesus can take the garbage away for you? That if you give your life to him, all your garbage will be gone.
Do you know who can take away all your garbage?
That's a great
I can
joke,
only take away these two.
Brilliant.
It is brilliant. But It's also terrible. No one would ever do that, and no one should expect them to do that. It's a job. They're doing what they find is productive. Hopefully, that if you're a garbage man, obviously that's not a glamorous job, and most people would think of that like, well, that sucks. Nobody's gonna like that. But you know what? There's got to be people out there who are like, yeah, I find value in this. I'm helping keep
I know
the
somebody
world
who did it and enjoyed it.
Clean. Like I'm taking these people's crap and I'm putting it somewhere better than on the street right here. So,
excuse me, ma'am. Per company policy, we can only take 2 cans of garbage. But do you know who can take all of your garbage away?
Yeah, like
Lord and Savior.
Is
Jesus
it funnier
Christ.
now that you said it? Or?
I said it better.
Yeah,
I thought about it while you were
said it
ranting,
so
and I worded it better.
Okay, well,
we'll probably edit out that you ever even said it. And he'll just take all the credit.
The Christian garbage man is my joke, and I'm gonna hang on to that one.
Well, I'm the Christian editor, and I can edit out whatever.
Are you editing for the glory of God?
Yeah, because if you're
Doubtful.
not, I don't think you.
All right, let's talk about some movies.
Fireproof.
What was the last like breathtaking Christian movie that you saw?
Oh, there wasn't one.
Facing the Giants.
I've never seen it, but are you being serious?
That breathtaking.
I don't even remember it.
Basically, you take any other Christian movie and put football on it, and you get Facing the Giants.
You mean?
Well,
like,
no, wait.
Becoming the.
What was it?
What's
Carmen the Champion.
Oh,
Part of the Champion.
Heck yes, that was the best. It was Carmen the Champion. My personal favorite is Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas.
Kirk Cameron saves.
That's
Christmas.
a thing.
That is a thing. Look it up.
What? I thought
No,
for sure
I don't
you were
want to.
joking. Why the heck does Kirk Cameron even have a career? He was a child star for a minute.
Let me ask you guys something. Do you believe that God is proud of Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, which came out in 2014 and currently holds a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes?
No.
I don't think God. I think God's ashamed of Kirk Cameron in general.
I don't think God cares because if God is real, he doesn't give a crap about any of this shit.
Well,
That's
the
what
point?
I think. That's my opinion if you wanted to know.
I posted something on Facebook about a year ago that was like, do you ever think that God is ashamed to have Kirk Cameron on his team?
Yes. I'm ashamed to have Kirk Cameron on God's team, and I'm not even God.
I mean, there's all these movies like God's Not Dead and all these.
God's not dead too.
Well, there's Hollywood movies like The Passion of the Christ and the Noah movie and stuff like that, where they take Bible stories. Hollywood took Bible stories and did them in a decent fashion because the Christian market wasn't making it happen, and they knew that there was a market there for it, and so they went for it. How come every single Christian movie that comes from a Christian producer, marketing company, whatever,
low budget type stuff?
Yeah. How come? Why is it low budget? Why is it terrible? Why does every single one suck?
Nobody wants to fund that crap, man.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's funding it. That's my stance on it. Is the money isn't there, and there's not the big Hollywood budgets for an amazing movie or to hire amazing actors, so you get all these B class or even C, D class actors.
I think that's a cop out. I think that's crap.
Well, I think I agree mostly, but if think of a great director that has made kick-ass movies, did they get there because they talked some shitty message that was neatly tied up in a bow for a Christian message? Did they get there?
Same with CCM Music.
Yeah,
They did it because they were trying to tell a kick-ass story that people would enjoy.
And they sacrificed nothing to do that. They didn't worry about who they were offending. They didn't worry about who they weren't offending. They just were like, any great director that you can think of right now didn't
James Cameron. J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, okay.
James Cameron's amazing. What are you talking about?
But they didn't go out there trying to be like, I'm gonna do God's will and I'm gonna make a movie that proclaims his love to people.
Is that every Christian's voice?
Are you aiming at one specific person with that?
No. I don't know. It's dumb, and so I'm trying to sound dumb because it's dumb.
Yeah.
And the greatest directors got there because they made these movies to stand in any market. Yeah. And that's the failure of
they made
Christian
great art.
That's the failure of the Christian movie industry and the music industry is they're only marketing it to the people who will get it, and they're only marketing it to the people who don't care about good art. They just want it to be like, they just want it to fit their little mold in their bubble of their life, and then they're just like, oh, wasn't that a nice movie? Oh, no, it was crap. It was terrible.
They are making movies that is supposedly evangelizing, and that is their excuse for making it horribly. But the only people that they're evangelizing to is the Christians that want to see on the big screen somebody reaffirming their beliefs. Yes, somebody reaffirming.
Say Jesus, man.
Somebody saying the hot button points that make them feel good about what they believe and reaffirm that. And we were talking about funding. I said it's a cop-out because look at any indie film festival. They didn't have budgets. They just made good art. They took it out there.
Yeah. Budget's not an excuse.
No. And
Napoleon Dynamite.
I mean, there's crowdfunding. There's film festivals and stuff like that. The movie Paranormal Activity, I've got stats here. The movie Paranormal Activity cost $15,000, which is nothing. It was an indie film. They took it to film festivals and stuff. It was picked up by Paramount Pictures because it's a great movie, and they thought that they could sell it. It made $193.4 million in the box office. It was purchased by DreamWorks. It was arguably the most profitable movie ever made, turned into a 6-film series that made $889.7 million at box office sales. And you tell me that it is because they had funding.
They have to work for it, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Work for
if
it.
the passion is there, if they really wanted, they had a real vision of something that was...
Speaking of the passion.
Great. I hate that movie. Like, we're not talking about that one. Whatever.
It's a hell of a lot better than Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas.
It is. But so Paranormal Activity or Blair Witch Project or whatever being really low budget films, it was just like they were made out of a group of people just put their everything into it. They did everything they could. They just made the best movie they could. You don't see Christians doing that shit.
That's my point.
Don't.
I have another point to bring up about movies, and it's true with just about anything Christians are slightly uncomfortable with. The movie The Shack. I haven't seen the movie, but it has really big spiritual implications. It does discuss like godly issues and stuff like that. But it's
godly issues.
It's not 100% theologically sound, like straight to the Bible. I guess God is portrayed by a black woman or something like that. And so what do the Christians do? Because they don't agree with all of it, Christians start protesting. They boycott it on Facebook because that's what Christians do. That's their one tool in their tool belt is boycotting. So this movie that has really huge ratings and has really positive spiritual message, we're going to boycott and tell people not to watch it. They can't handle it because it's just slightly uncomfortable to them. And that's another issue, is if it doesn't fit 100% perfect with what you believe, we're not going to have anything to do with it. We're not going to back it. So Christians aren't backing the good stuff that is out there. They're backing the terrible crap, and they're not backing the good crap that is put out.
There's a silver lining to this. First of all, The Shack only got like a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. It wasn't a mind blower, but Christians were railing against the book long before that, which is sold in Christian bookstores. But because it had crazy, outlandish thoughts of God showing himself in a different light, that it's totally unacceptable.
God would never do that.
I would take the Da Vinci Code so I could burn the Da Vinci Code. Angela Martin.
I bought three copies of the Da Vinci Code just so I could have a bonfire. A bonfire.
I think
full circle.
Need like 30 copies of the Da Vinci Code to have a bonfire.
Okay, there is a bit of a silver lining here that I stumbled across recently. Have you guys heard of the movie The Case for Christ?
I have, because I know the author who actually wrote the book. I don't know him personally, but I've heard of the book, and I haven't really... I saw the preview for it, and I'm still wondering if it's going to be a cheesy Christian film just because it's a Christian film.
Here's the thing. I totally assumed, very skeptically, was railing against it as soon as I heard that there's another Christian movie. You know, it's called The Case for Christ. It sounds like God's Not Dead, or God's Not Dead 2, or God's Not Dead 5, or whatever.
God needs us to make the case for him, right?
Yeah. Well, so I was listening to Christian radio accidentally, and I was about to turn it off, and they were interviewing the director for this movie, whose name is John Gunn, and he was talking about this movie, like talking about what it's about, and just telling the backstory of, a guy who lost his faith or whatever. I don't entirely know what the story's about. I haven't seen the movie, but
the story is about he didn't lose his faith. He was a journalist, a diehard atheist who his wife ended up finding God through a mutual friend, and he was completely against her, and they almost got a divorce because of it. And so he set out on this mission to disprove God and disprove faith. And so his whole mission for like 2 years was to disprove God, and through that, he found God and found his faith.
Based on a real story, or it's just a fiction?
Yeah. This is his real story. There was a book written like 15 years ago called Case for Christ. Was his findings and how he found God through trying to disprove God.
So I was listening to this interview with the director, and he starts out talking about, just the theme behind the movie and the point that he wanted to get across with it. And I'm just sitting there like assuming the worst, assuming that it's going to be the next God's Not Dead or whatever, and just cheesy propaganda to sell Jesus to more Christians. And he keeps talking, and like 15 minutes into it, he starts talking about how he is upset with where Christian art stands right now and why, like exactly what we're talking about here. Like he's talking about he wanted to make it the best movie that he could and tell this story in the best way that he possibly could and make it a genuinely good movie and not just Christian propaganda. And me and my wife Kayla were driving listening to this, so I started out like just like, oh yeah, that, but it's gonna suck. And then he keeps going and going, and I'm like, oh well, crap. Like insert foot into mouth. And he would talk about like, well, we're trying to get buses of churches out to see this movie and everything. I was like, oh, why are you bringing Christians out to see a Christian movie? And he's like, but really, the main point, like we're telling everyone to invite their non-Christian friends to be on these buses because they're obviously the point of this movie. Like
any non-Christian is not going to be caught dead going to that crap.
Not necessarily true. This movie currently holds a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty impressive for any movie. I can never
tell which percentage is good. Is it you want close to 100 or you want close to...
It's like a test.
Okay.
I know you were probably confused on those back in high school, too, and not sure which end to go for.
Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas, you said got 0, so...
Yeah, so
imagine as far from that as you can get.
The opposite of Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas is what we're shooting for here.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's got a 79%. I haven't seen it yet, but... I'm pretty stoked. Like a director who actually cared about making good art, and it has a message, fine. It's the same as music. Sure. If you want to have a message in it, do that, but do the art well first, and the rest will follow.
My point in everything about Christian music, and it goes back to The Shack and any of those movies that Christians want to boycott, is there's a fine line between appealing to the Christianese people and the Christian backing, the Christian funding, and then the innovative side of the secular market and getting funding there. And you have to basically drop your art, drop your movie or your music right on that line and not really care which side gets a little bit offended about it. And that's the only way anything's going to change and innovative stuff is going to get created, is if we just drop it right on that line and say, look, I know this says some stuff that's going to offend this side. It says some stuff that's going to offend this side. I don't care. I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to put my art out, and this is what I feel. And if you like it, fine. If not, fine. I'm going to do as good as I can, though.
Absolutely.
Right. I would say just the last thing you were saying, Dan, was you had, I think the way you said it was that something about an outrage. The biggest outrage in Christian art is that people aren't,
they're not applying themselves.
Yeah, whatever it is you were saying, and that people think is the biggest outrage to Christian art. I would say that the biggest outrage to me is that there's such thing as Christian art.
There you go.
And then it should just be art.
No, I absolutely
agree.
There
should be no such thing as Christian art, and there shouldn't be a difference. It's just everybody should just make their art. They're making artistic endeavors, whatever it is.
Right.
It's art. Stop labeling it Christian.
Yeah, and on the topic of this movie in particular, it's called The Case for Christ. who knows what their intention was. If there wasn't a Christian market where saying it is a Christian movie or isn't, it could be called The Case for Christ without it being lumped in with Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas. And it would be good art on its own that represents what this person believes or the story that they wanted to tell. And that would be a much better world to live in if there was not a Christian propaganda label to slap on cheap Walmart plastic crap versions of good products.
I had a coworker who was outraged that the family Christian bookstores were closing.
I was just driving past that today, and I was like, "Thank God!
Thank God! I don't have to burn it down
that
now."
Was it. In the back of my head, I'm thinking that is the best thing that's ever happened for Christian art or Christian music is get it away from that stigma of the family Christian bookstore, because you're lumping together. Same with the movies, you're lumping together Under Oath's greatest albums with Casting Clowns. We Were Meant to Thrive.
If you like Insane Clown Posse, you'll love Insane Clown Posse. Oh dear.
Do you remember the stickers on the CDs at the Family Christian Bookstore that said, for fans of Trapped, or for fans of this band, or that?
How about
Skillet, for fans of Trapped?
How about for fans of Trapped, listen to Trapped, because they're a damn good band.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't. Oh man.
Real quick, I want to talk about the Left Behind movies.
Why do we keep talking about Kirk Cameron?
This isn't about Kirk Cameron anymore. This is about, we're talking about funding and like why the Christian movie industry is not thriving is because of funding. How about the fact that they redid the Left Behind movie last year or the year before with Nicolas Cage. They had a
what?
Yeah.
That happened?
Yes. Nicolas Cage was the main actor, had a $15 million budget.
Last year?
Yeah.
No, I did not hear about that.
Had a $15 million budget, way more than Paranormal Activity's $15,000 budget. It had backing from Duck Dynasty guys and all the Christian market and everything.
God, that's so stupid.
And Hollywood, it was in theaters and everything, and it ended up bombing. It got a 2%, which is...
Wasn't it worse than the original Left Behind?
It got lower than Kirk Cameron's Left Behind, which got a 16% back in 2001 on a $4 million budget. And
all of that's a huge waste of money. All of it.
It is. It's insane. Like Kirk Cameron's, at least it made $4.2 million at the box office, so it at least broke even. I guarantee you that the new Left Behind did not make $15 million at the box office. It's not about budget here, because the budget can be there. They rallied the church behind them and got all these big names into it, and Nicolas Cage, who will obviously do whatever the hell is thrown at him, which is fine, but he's a big name actor, and they still...
It has everything I look for in a Nick Cage movie. Film.
Still bombed tremendously, and that just blows my mind. I don't get it. When I first saw the flyer on Facebook of Nicolas Cage, it's like, it looks photoshopped. It doesn't even look like a real flyer, let alone a real movie.
Terrible.
It's like him there.
They couldn't even put effort into the promo flyers. That's how bad of an effort they put into it.
Looks like Nicolas Cage's head photoshopped onto a body in front of like a burning background, and that's all it was, and it said Left Behind at the top. Wow. And that is enough to sell a movie to Christians.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Now Christians probably think that Nicolas Cage is the epitome of Christian.
Yeah, they're going to be bummed when he's in his next rated R movie.
Yeah, kind of like wasn't Mr. T in a Christian film?
Mr. T was, and Gary Busey was, both in the same series.
And I don't think they are Christian actors.
Well, it's kind of like when I was saying earlier, there's a movie, I don't know what it's called even, but mainstream media creation of a movie that is like a cinematic take on Jesus's 40 days, 40 nights in the wilderness and being tempted by Satan and what that could have looked like.
Yeah.
It sounded good. Like, it sounded cool. It was like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Christians are going to rail against it because that's not how it happened.
Right.
Or that's not how it happened. Yeah, that's not what the Bible says.
That's kind of the same as
this is art. So.
The Passion of the Christ. We dogged on it a little bit, but The Passion of the Christ was a freaking well-made movie. And what's his name who starred in it? In Frequency.
I don't even know.
Craig.
Jim Caviezel.
Jim Caviezel. He's an amazing actor, and he did an amazing job, in my opinion. And it did break some boundaries because the whole thing was in Hebrew, a dead language, and it was all subtitle, and it did pretty dang well.
Yeah.
but they had like the little devil baby with the devil-looking guy who made a weird face and stuff, and Christians gave crap on that because it wasn't exactly how it says it was in the Bible, which is like, you make a Hollywood movie. You make a Hollywood movie in Hebrew and make it as factual as you possibly can. You do that. Try doing that. See how freaking hard and crazy it is to make that. Like, he didn't have backing of a studio for that movie. Mel Gibson didn't. He did it on his own because he wanted to make that movie. So I applaud him for that. I don't love the movie, but...
the thing that I respect about that movie is I've heard interviews about how Mel Gibson came to Jim Caviezel, and he basically presented this to him like, this could possibly break your career, and you may not star in anything ever again.
Right.
But I want to make this film, and I want to make it good. And Jim Caviezel said, hell yeah, let's go for it. And that's how much passion he had as the president. Pun intended. That's how much passion he had going into this, and he poured everything into that acting job, too, knowing that this might be the last thing he ever does. And he was at the top of his game at the time.
Jesus knew that was the last thing he would ever do.
You haven't really heard him in much besides TV dramas lately.
That's what I was going to say. Is he dead since then?
No, he's been in TV drama since then. But yeah, it basically did stop his movie career. Yeah. But he was that committed to that film and to doing that well of a job. He put himself through physical sickness and he got struck by lightning in that movie while they were filming that movie.
That's
while he was
not
hanging
biblical.
on the cross.
That's not biblical.
While he was hanging on the cross, he got literally struck by lightning.
Do you think that's a sign of anything?
Yeah. I'm just saying, all that he put and Mel Gibson put into that
and
movie.
They actually whipped him too. Like, that was not any effects at all. That was 100% real.
Yeah. The whips did actually catch him a few times, and he went through a lot of physical torment making this movie.
Yeah.
And that's just a sign to me of how much commitment he put into making a damn good Christian movie.
Yep.
And making
I would
really
argue
good
that
art.
That's not a Christian movie. It was just...
Well, if that wasn't based on the Bible, if that wasn't based on anything, and they told that story, it's a freaking awesome story to tell.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's a Christian story means that it has a Christian market. But yeah, it's just the amount that they put into that is awesome. And if everybody could put that amount into their Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas, I'm just going to keep coming back to that. If Kirk
That's
Cameron,
our go-to.
If Kirk Cameron,
I think this episode should be called Kirk
Casting
Cameron
Crowns
Saves
and Kirk
Christmas.
Cameron Saves Christmas.
That's the episode
is our
title.
line. That's our bar.
That should be the title of this episode.
if Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas poured his heart into that, poured his heart into telling that story, got whipped, got struck by light, like went against everything, I'd watch it. What in the world happened on that set?
Yeah.
While he was flying in the sleigh, he got struck by lightning.
Well, I think the whole movie is about, like, Kirk Cameron is saying, like, these people believe in Santa and I believe in Jesus, and these people that are trying to take Santa out of Christmas because of Christianity, they're wrong too. It should be both. Like, we should be embracing or whatever. Like, it's such a watered down message that I think it even pissed off some Christians that he was saying that and still made a terrible movie. Greg, what are you doing?
Texting.
Cool. Real cool. Anyway.
I'm still here.
Well, thanks, guys, brothers and brothers-in-law. I'm just going to call you both brothers. Bros.
Yeah.
Brosifs. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate you coming
Can I give
on.
the closing statement?
Nope, shut up.
Yeah, I want him to.
Thanks for.
I want to give the closing
All right,
statement.
after I'm done, you can. Thanks for coming on and sharing your outrage and coal defending something that you believe in strongly. I'm sure that the Christian market is thriving and should be in the name of Jesus.
My closing statement is, we were made for so much more than ordinary life. We were made to thrive.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, thanks for sticking around, guys. I hope you enjoyed our take on Christian entertainment and our general douchebaggery. As I said at the beginning of the show, I've got a couple song clips that we have created personally, so you guys can check out what we do, and you can decide for yourselves if we're actually practicing what we preach and applying ourselves to our own art. The first clip here is of my band, The Dawn Retreat, in which I am the lyricist and vocalist. I've been making music with these guys for over 10 years or so, since we were in high school. We were on hiatus for about 3 years and recently started writing together again, and this is the first single that has come out of that effort. It's called Vampires in White Shoes Part 2. Check it out.
I'm not asking much, just a second of your time. Lost me in you, up in a place you hide. This is the opposition you've been searching for. I'm the lover, the filmmaker, I'm the bitch's info. So if you want it all, and if you're searching for your crown of thorns, it's tell me I'm yours. And if you're waiting for something to wait no more, can tell inside, but I can't turn you down. This life, it's what we make it. Since that's the case, embrace our product placement.
Okay, again, that is my band, The Dawn Retreat. You can check out more of that stuff, the full track, and even a music video for that song at facebook.com/The Dawn Retreat. This next clip is of Cole's band called Within the Gray. He is also the lyricist and vocalist for his band. This song is called Not Worthless, and they actually just premiered this track on Friday, so it's brand spanking new. Check it out.
When it all is just way too much, I just don't feel like even getting up or pushing through another godforsaken day. Depression is such a funny fucking If it all ends tonight, if it all ends tonight, I can't stand the thought of life. And if it all ends tonight, if it all ends tonight, I would still at least have my pride. I don't wanna die, but I don't wanna
Again, that's Cole's band called Within the Gray. You can check out the full track and more at facebook.com/Within the Gray Band. And I'll include links to all of these in the show notes for this episode, so you can find those at tsidpod.com. This last one is my personal solo project, and it is just called Smots. I write and perform and record everything, and it's a little weird, so hopefully you weirdos will enjoy it. This is actually a song that has never been released and is not even completely finalized. So as a thank you to all of you for listening to the show, you're getting a TSID Pod exclusive peek at something completely new. The song is currently unofficially titled ABC, or Always Be Creating. I wrote this song a couple of years ago, but it just fits so well with this conversation that we just had. The song is simply about creating, putting your all into something that is a reflection of you, your values, your passions, your everything, and not letting people stand in the way of that. The value of making something from nothing and adding an element to the collective makeup of this world that, without you, would have never existed. But enough soapboxing. This episode has gone a little long already, but hey, it's my show, and I'll do what I want. And in the spirit of that, I'm just going to go ahead and play this whole unreleased and unfinalized song in its entirety. If you don't like it, just turn it off. But again, you can find all the links of these musical endeavors and much more over at tsidpod.com. And as always, be sure to review and subscribe to the show on iTunes. That helps us out a lot. And until next time, question everything and stay uncomfortable. I'll talk to you then. Thanks.
Oh yeah, guess who's back? Well, it's not me because I never left. If I had, you can bet that I would have said bye. Don't need a mop right to the science lab or rap. Yeah, this is going on for longer than we all would expect. In fact, you can recall the last time I said that I'm a rocket out of rap, and I'm not even that sure. I got a lot of back because I've done got 99 projects successfully well, but yeah, I ain't done this great for the sake of creation of fate just to make what I love. If you don't like it, you cannot get nothing from it. Just turn it off. You can just make fun of it. Nothing that won't stop it. Just turn it off. Just turn it off. Just turn it off. I'm not important enough for you to bore yourself with. If you don't like my music, then just please turn it off. But if you want something that you can strut to, forget what they taught you. Let your guard down and turn your speakers up. Cause I just wanna make the groovy music that you used to listen to before you fuse. Got scooped by the stupid kid to school who said you're not cool cause you smile too much. What the friggin' am I gonna do myself? 1, 2, mic check, anyone till that. Cause the best advice to how is find your passion. It's anything they love and then just do it and do it and do it and do it. And if you love it, how can anyone tell you? But if they do, then let them. It's better to get a letter for you rather than try to talk common sense you up. Cause pretty soon they're gonna eat the words. Choke on the irony and start singing yours. At the very least, you gotta make them see the misery. Hate's coming up with the company is joy. If you don't like it, you cannot get nothing from it. Just turn it off. You can just make fun of it. Nothing that won't stop it. Just turn it off. Just turn it off. Just turn it off. I believe we were created by a being far greater than us, and as such we have a distinct and an inherent desire to do the same. To use our hands, our hearts, and minds to make, create, compose, design, and shape the fabric of our impatient state. We went on a new design and it takes long, far longer than we thought we'd have to wait. And so we take shots at each other like we're not all wonderfully made, insulting the intellect of an architect who designed us with mindset like a reject. But the art without the artist is all just a canvas without paint. It's a shame and a waste. And I wanna be beautiful again in full colories, brush stroke and tally plays. Textures to overwhelming without intelligence, intricately laid. All of this it will go together, so why do we all make no mistake? How can you say that there is no painter if the painting directly reflects his face?
This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.